Hey guys, it's Serge. So I want to talk to you today about which Mac desktop you should buy. So Apple makes 3 Mac desktops. There's the Mac Pro, the Mac Mini, and the iMac. Now, all 3 of these products are for completely different people. If you guys have questions about which one you should buy, leave a comment down below because I will be replying to all comments, and I do want to help you choose the right device that's for you. So don't forget to leave a comment down below. Actually, quite astonishing how different these products are. They work pretty much differently, and you kind of need different peripherals to make them work. For instance, the Mac Mini is the most affordable Mac that you can buy. It's basically a small little computer base. You'll have to plug in a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor to essentially get it to work. It's your cheapest, easiest way to access OS X. So people are always asking me, why would you ever buy the Mac Mini? You know, it's the most underpowered computer you can get. You know, you can't really upgrade it anymore. In the past, you actually used to be able to pop off this cover very easily and upgrade the components. Now you can't really do that. Well, Apple does not believe in making the systems complicated. The whole idea behind the Mac computer was that it's easy to use, easy to service, bring it to the Mac store and they can repair it for you. Well, this particular Mac, what they did is they made it more of like kind of a media center computer. They can still kind of do everything in between. So if you need to video edit, if you need to access the internet or do 3D modeling rendering, you can do just about anything on this Mac. But the thing is, because this Mac is going to run you about anywhere from $350 up to almost $1,000, depending on which upgrades you get, it really is kind of a weird product, because if you're really willing to spend around $1,000, maybe you should just spend, you know, a little bit more and get yourself an iMac. The beauty of the iMacs is that the iMacs are an all-in-one system with a screen and with speakers. So it's actually quite revolutionary that you have built-in speakers that are actually good and a really big monitor and an extremely thin profile. I mean, having a computer this thin is almost unheard of. If you go anywhere else to try to find an all-in-one computer solution, it's quite hard to find something that's going to look this aesthetically pleasing with these kind of like premium speakers, and they are really good. Then we have the Mac Pro. The Mac Pro is essentially designed for enterprise solutions, people who are really into getting a particular task done. For instance, if you are like a working professional and you do video editing and you need something that's going to edit those videos really quick, well, the Mac Pro is going to be for you because it's got a special chip inside there called Xeon CPU, and this thing, it has you can have more cores. Instead of 4 cores, you can have up to 12 cores, even 16 cores, depending on which Xeon CPU you get. Like, you can get them online for fairly cheap actually. And all in all, this little machine here, it's similar to the Mac Mini in the sense that it really is just a desktop tower. But the beauty of the Mac Pro is that this is almost like a server-like solution. And what that means is servers are basically computers that are super powerful. They're almost like supercomputers that you can get from like businesses to do very complicated tasks that normal computers would just do really slowly. So for instance, who is this product for? Well, if you're a working professional, if you are in business and you need the fastest computer available, the Mac Pro is pretty much the one you want to get. But the thing is, the question is, what's the best value? Right now, the best value is always going to be the iMac because it's got the screen, the speakers, and all in all, this thing works out of box, and you even get a mouse and keyboard. If you buy the Mac Mini or the Mac Pro, you're going to have to get yourself a mouse and keyboard on top of that, and if you don't have a monitor already, you have to buy a monitor. Here I have a Vizio monitor that's not too bad. You know, I picked it up for $150, but if you're realistically going to be using the Mac Pro, you want to get yourself a 4K monitor. You want to get yourself something really good, maybe even a 5K monitor. Something like this Vizio screen would only realistically be good for like the Mac Mini, for instance. You know, if you're just trying to get the most affordable Mac for your money. The question is, why buy a Mac in the first place? Well, the thing about Macs is that they're a lot easier to use than Windows, and some of the applications are a little bit more intuitive. However, I have found that sometimes when I don't know how to do something on the Mac, I literally cannot figure it out. I'm going to spend hours searching online trying to figure some of these things out. So computers in general, they're not easy to use. Like, some can be a little bit easier, like the Macs for instance, or the MacBooks, but they still are difficult all in all to use. So keep that in mind when you're picking out your Mac. Again, if you don't have a lot of money and you're looking to save as much money as possible, but still get an Apple computer, the Mac Mini is the one you want to get. But if you're an enthusiast of computer hardware and you have a lot of work that you need to be getting done, Mac Pro is a really cool computer that, it's funny, it actually looks kind of like a trash can. Looks aside, I actually think that it's really good quality, and for the amount of hardware you're getting in this kind of small package is really unheard of, because if you're looking to get a Xeon based computer, it's going to be about, this big, or it's going to be a server rack, which is basically like a Blade computer. And those things, who wants to have those things in their house? Nobody really wants to have it. Apple, what they did is they took the concept of the powerful Xeon computer and made it into a portable slim desktop, which it's just really impressive design. Take a look at this quick little diagram that shows how this thing is built. It's actually really, really impressive. Essentially, it's like this triangle core that has multiple graphics cards built in there. You got this powerful CPU, and all of it is cooled by just one fan. It's actually kind of mind-blowing how cool the design is behind it. The same thing kind of goes for the Mac Mini. It's essentially just a really small computer base that you just kind of put anywhere in your living room, in your home, office. Just plug in whatever monitor you're going to be using, and then just kind of go from there. When I was trying to come up with gift ideas for my mom, for instance, she had a really old gaming computer from like 2003, an AMD Athlon, just an X2, so it's a dual core. It was really, really slow. It had, I think, 2 gigabytes of RAM. When I was looking for something, I'm like, I want her to try the Mac. I want to get her something smaller, something a little bit more portable, something that she could just kind of, put in her room, plug it in, turn it on. It'll be quick because it'll probably have an SSD in there. Because I'm always telling people, if you have a slow computer, always opt for the SSD upgrade when you're buying a new computer, because the SSD is like night and day. Literally, you go from your computer starting up in 5 minutes to your computer starting up in 1 minute, sometimes even 30 seconds. It's quite amazing. If you are a gamer, which particular Mac should you get? For gamers, it's important to consider the performance of the computer. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, even though the Mac Pro is an amazing device, it is fairly expensive. It is really expensive because it features the Xeon processors, and it has these special workstation graphics cards that can be really good for doing very specific tasks. If you have to ask, whether this thing is worth it for you, chances are it probably isn't, because you're not going to understand what the Xeon is. You're not going to understand what the AMD Fire Pro, video cards do. But to sum it up, you can run like really special, specific 3D applications, or server complete computing tasks, or even really, really quick video editing. When you look at a lot of tech channels, and if they do happen to review Apple products, you're gonna see that a lot of times the tech reviewer has a Mac Pro, and that's because people who like tech, who are really enthusiastic about computers, really love the idea behind the Mac Pro. We really just wish it was maybe even just a tad bit more upgradable, and really just kind of bring the cost down on it, because it is really kind of expensive. Now, my thing about Apple computers is that I always tell, look, buy refurbished, because you're going to save upwards up to 30%, sometimes even 50%, depending on where you buy it. Some of the best places to get yourself a really, really good deal on a Mac is going to be on the Apple Refurbished store. So take a look at the site here. We have the MacBooks for 30% off. We have the iMacs for, sometimes $400 off. That's a huge amount of money. That's just really, you don't have to pay it. Why pay it if you don't have to pay it? When buying on eBay, compare and contrast the prices of what you see on the Apple's website as compared to what you can get. Here I'm searching for an older model. This one here is a really, really good deal. You can pick it up and you can save quite a bit of money. Don't discount the older models, because they still work really, really well for literally half the price. Here you can see me looking to make sure the 100% positive feedback is all there, no negative feedback. This is something you can trust. On Amazon, it's pretty much the same thing. However, on Amazon, I would search for an Amazon fulfilled order, as that way you really just can't get scammed. Let's talk about upgrades. So depending on which computer you pick here, which upgrade should you get? Well, I always tell people to max out the graphics card, because if you're going to be doing any type of gaming whatsoever or video editing, getting yourself a little bit more powerful graphics card is going to speed that process up. So on Mac OS, what they do is they have specific software that takes advantage of certain types of hardware, like the CPU and the GPU. So the CPU just processes most of the work, but the GPU processes mostly the graphics. That's why it's called the GPU, the graphics processing unit. So essentially these two components work together to complete whatever task you're working on much faster. So always up the graphics. But one of the most important things to consider is to up the SSD storage. You're gonna wanna jump from the base SSD storage, which will either be 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes, to the next level up if you can. So either jump from 128 to 256 or from 256 to 512, because there's this really weird phenomenon that happened around 2008, 2010, where our hard drives used to be 500 gigabyte. They used to be 1 terabyte, which is 1,000 gigabytes. And then all of a sudden, when SSDs came out, our 1,000 gigabyte hard drive dropped down to 64 gigabyte or 128 gigabyte. And we were just really, really short on storage. So anytime you can afford to get a storage upgrade, definitely go for it. But if you feel like the SSDs are too expensive, get yourself an external hard drive. So this right here is a Western Digital hard drive. It's a 2 terabyte, and I just dump most of my random files on here, like some of my games or my video editing projects. I do make quite a few videos, so that does pile up. And it's kind of smart to back some of your stuff up, because in case your computer malfunctions, you really want to be able to save some of the information. So never rely on just one storage device. Always back up your storage. It's kind of a smart thing to do. But regardless of which type of storage, external storage device you buy, you can get a Seagate, you can get a Western Digital. Both of those brands are primarily kind of the same. But if you really can, get yourself an external SSD drive by Samsung or other leading brands, because again, SSDs, they're really like night and day. You can't compare the performance. It's almost like when a new technology comes out, and just because it's a complete game changer in the industry. So always opt for the SSD upgrade. I believe one of the worthless upgrades you can get for your Mac or any computer is really just going too hard on the CPU. Most of the CPUs that are the i5s, the i7s, they're already pretty fast. The central processing unit is already designed to be really, really powerful. Unless you're an enthusiast of computer hardware, don't get the CPU upgrade, because it's really not going to matter that much to you. Why waste the money if it's really not going to matter? But you know what? If you are an enthusiast of hardware and you're going to get an i7 processor, you're going to bump it up more to maybe the 4 gigahertz or 4.5 gigahertz CPU, well, you know what? Consider getting the Mac Pro, because you can get even more cores. So a CPU essentially has 4 cores. Most of the basic CPUs could have 2 cores. Imagine the CPU as kind of like a car engine. The more cylinders you have, the faster your car will go. When you get a CPU that has like 12 cores, it can go pretty fast. But remember, more cores isn't necessarily better performance for all things, because the application has to know to take advantage of those cores. So don't just blindly upgrade your CPU if you really don't think you need it. Look at it this way. If you think that you need the upgrade, look into why you need it, like whether a specific application will utilize it or a game that you really like to play will utilize it, and then decide for yourself whether you really want to get that upgrade or not. Because at the end of the day, most upgrades you really kind of don't need. The base model of pretty much any computer will do. But there are a few tips and tricks to keep in mind, like upgrading the SSD or upgrading the GPU, depending on what you want to do. Because some people watching this video, they really don't care about gaming. But while others who might actually like to game and have just found out that you can actually game on Macs are actually going to want to upgrade the GPU. So that's a particular scenario to consider. People ask me every day, which Mac should I buy? Should I get this MacBook? Should I get the iMac versus the Mac Mini? The thing is, all these computers primarily work the same way, but some of them are slightly better at doing certain tasks. If you like the design of a particular computer, like for instance, the iMacs, they're really an all-in-one design. They feature only, one power cord. Me personally, that is a design aesthetic that I chose that I really, really like. I just don't like having too many cords, too many things connected on the bottom, having to trip over your cords and fiddling with them. Of course, the other thing to consider would be cord management. If you're not a fan of all-in-one solutions, you can manage your cords, with zip ties and all that. But all that stuff takes time. And in the end, if you want to move your computer to a different location, me for instance, I grab this computer, I'll take it to LAN parties. I'll take it to friends' houses. We'll sit down, we'll play some Counter-Strike. I don't like having too many cords. That's something that I personally decided. If you really don't care about that, grab yourself, a really simple Mac Mini or maybe even a MacBook, because right now the thing that Apple really does best, that I say has the best value, is really going to be the MacBooks. And then after that, it's going to be the iMacs, and then the Mac Mini, and then the Mac Pro. Do you want to get yourself a cheap $30 to $100 prepaid smartphone? Well, then that's pretty much like getting a Mac Mini. Or do you want to get yourself, a Galaxy S7 or an iPhone 7? That's pretty much what a Mac Pro or an iMac would be. And these are kind of an example that is analogous. So in essence, a $100 smartphone or a $700 smartphone are both kind of the same. They do the same things, but one just does it smoother and faster. And those are realistically the main differences between the products you see here. One is slower, one is faster, and then the third option here is an all-in-one system. So do you want an all-in-one system? Yes or no? If yes, get the iMac. If you don't mind, consider one of these options. Do you want speed? Get the Mac Pro. If you don't want speed, get yourself a Mac Mini. That's going to be the easiest way to get started. Let's go over the ports that each of these devices have, because it's important to know which particular computer to get. You have to know what kind of ports it has, whether that'll be compatible with maybe your monitor, or how many USB ports it has. These are really important things to consider. Let's take a look at the Mac Mini first. So with the Mac Mini, you got your power button here, power cord, Ethernet. So with the Ethernet, it's just basically a cable that you plug in to get internet from your router or modem. But the thing is, this thing already has built-in Wi-Fi module within the Apple logo, so there's really no necessary point to actually have Ethernet. Ethernet is good because it can give you double or triple the speeds, maybe even quadruple, but the thing is, there's not a lot of reason to get it, because why would you want to have an extra cord? It's just kind of annoying for most people. You have one HDMI port. I really wish that more computers had multiple HDMI ports, because it's sometimes easier plug in, a TV as opposed to having computer monitor, because with a TV, it can have the smart functions built in. It could be very useful, and they're very cheap and they're very readily available. So I really wish there was more HDMI ports. But whenever you're buying Apple products, they really put a lot of Thunderbolt ports. The reason for that is Apple invented the Thunderbolt port way to kind of bridge the gap between transferring data, having video, and having sound in one connection. They want to manage everything through one connection. So with these Thunderbolt ports, you could attach an extra video card for better gaming. You can attach, a really nice, 4K, 5K monitor. You can attach quite a lot of stuff through this. You can make your hard drive really quick. If it uses the Thunderbolt connection, your hard drive will just be substantially faster. You also have 4 USB ports. I actually think that's pretty generous to have 4 USB ports. Most companies don't give you that many USB ports. On a laptop, you'll be lucky if you have 2 to 3, and having 4 is actually quite nice. And then you have your SD card slot, which is a really nice addition, because some laptops don't even have that. Some desktops don't even have it. Like for instance, the Mac Pro doesn't have an SD card slot. But primarily the reason why the Mac Pro wouldn't have an SD card slot is because a working professional who would buy this does not use SD cards, because they're very, very unreliable. Working professionals are going to use, external SSD drives. They're going to use really different technology that won't have anything to do with SD cards. Audio out ports, to listen to music or connect speakers. And then at the very bottom, you have exhaust grill to vent out the hot air from the CPU. Then on the iMac, Ethernet, 2 Thunderbolt ports. We have 4 USBs, an SD card slot, and a headphone jack. I really wish they would have added HDMI, but then again, the Thunderbolt is really capable, and Apple's really built a whole ecosystem around Thunderbolt, so it kind of makes sense to keep it around. So on the Mac Pro, you're going to have 4 USB ports, you're going to have audio ports for speakers, for headphones, and you're going to have 6 Thunderbolt ports. So again, a working professional is really going to utilize those Thunderbolt ports for multiple drives, for lots of storage, because they'll be working with lots of files. They're going to have 2 Ethernet ports, which this I kind of don't get. If you guys know why there's 2 Ethernet ports, let me know in the comment section below, because it's really kind of confusing. I personally wouldn't really use 2 Ethernet ports for anything. I'm not sure why they would have that. Maybe for extra speed, but probably not. And then conveniently, they did add an HDMI port. I really wish they would have had an HDMI port on the iMac, but they never did, so oh well. So in the 2012 version Mac Minis, you could upgrade RAM, and you could also upgrade the storage. You can put an SSD drive in there, which is quite nice. Now it's actually not really possible to upgrade anything within the Mac Minis unless you take it apart by removing this portion here, then unscrewing a ton of screws. They've made it extremely difficult to upgrade this device, but the easy answer is no, you can't upgrade it. But unless you're willing to do lots of work, there is a few things you could upgrade, like swap out the SSD drive, but that's really it. I believe the RAM is soldered in there, so yeah, I'm really disappointed they did that to the Mac Mini, because I felt like it had a lot of potential to be, a desktop that somebody could replace with one of their older computers. But now you don't really have a lot of desktop options. You either have to spend an extreme amount for the Mac Pro or get quite a decent amount of value with the iMac. But even the iMac for quite a lot of people is semi-expensive. And on the iMacs, there is a slot here to upgrade the RAM, and that's really it. There are some tutorials online that'll show you how to remove the screen on the front here and then upgrade like the CPU or upgrade the storage, but it's so hard to do that it's almost not worth it, because you can end up breaking the screen. All in all, the easiest way to understand whether Macs are upgradable is most of the time they're not, but if you're willing to do a lot of work, you can upgrade them. Now, the thing about the Mac Pro is that it does have upgrade capabilities. All you have to do is switch the little switch here, like this, comes up. You can upgrade the RAM and the SSD drive, and if you really want, you can also upgrade the GPUs, but this isn't something that Apple is telling you. You have to kind of look in third-party markets to see if somebody is selling a stronger GPU, and you could actually insert it in there, but it has to be one of the Fire Pro GPUs that's optimized to work with the iMac. You can't just grab a random GPU from some custom-built computer and shove it in there and have it work. But what you can do is you can grab a GPU and connect it into the Thunderbolt connection. Again, Thunderbolt connections are really kind of advanced connections and can do quite a bit of work. So if you're really willing to tinker, the devices on Apple are expandable. Not so much upgradable, but you can expand and you can build upon it. So you're not necessarily just stuck. There's a really big myth out there that people are talking about and saying you can't upgrade Macs, you can't expand them. But if you're willing to kind of tinker, you really can. And the thing is, if you're trying to upgrade your Mac, at that point, you're probably going to start tinkering around anyway, and you're going to want to upgrade your computer. You're going to want to expand it. I would say really ask yourself what you're going to be doing with your computer and what kind of workspace do you want to have. If you don't have a lot of money and you're willing to expand on your workspace, save up for a good monitor or just buy a good monitor flat out, get yourself a nice keyboard and mouse, and you're willing to just kind of build yourself desktop environment. A Mac Mini can do just about everything, but it does it kind of slow depending on which configuration you get. And even then, it does have quite a bit of mobile components, so it still won't be a powerhouse of a device. But again, it really depends on what you're doing. If you have a lot of income and you're willing to spend money and get the best device possible, try out the Mac Pro, because it's a really, really awesome device. But if you're looking for the best value, getting the most out of your money, I really believe that the iMacs are a great investment. I really just feel like on the iMacs, I'm not making any compromises anywhere. I'm getting a great screen, I'm getting great speakers, just a one-cord plug-in design, which is just excellent. I absolutely love it. And you get a pretty good amount of ports. In fact, the 5K iMacs that just came out recently are really, really cool. They have a really nice screen. They finally fixed the thermal throttling issues in the gaming department. Thermal throttling was an issue where the computer just got too hot and it would decrease its performance, and that made a lot of performance enthusiasts go nuts. They finally fixed a lot of the issues that it was having. Should you get AppleCare? Me personally, I have never bought AppleCare for my devices, but I feel that if you're a person who can sometimes be careless, or if you've ever broken your devices, or if you've ever knocked something over on them, get the AppleCare, because that's going to insure your device. You're going to be able to go to Apple They're literally going to be able to work on your computer, and most likely they're not going to charge you a whole lot to fix it. But what they will do is, let's say you smash the screen on this thing, they will reduce the deductible by a significant amount. So instead of paying $500 for a deductible to fix the screen, you're really just going to pay maybe $120, maybe less, maybe $79. It really does depend specifically on which thing that you break or how you break it. But get the AppleCare if you can afford it. But if you can't afford it, don't bother, because Apple's support systems are already fairly good. If you're having any issues with your Mac Minis, with your iMacs, your Mac Pros, you bring them in and Apple will most likely fix it for free unless they've determined that you have physically damaged the device. If you physically damage your devices, definitely get the AppleCare. I wanted to say thank you for watching this far into the video, and that because you've gotten this far, it means that you'd be a great subscriber. So if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? And I just wanted to ask you again, which model are you thinking about getting? And do you have any particular concerns that I did not answer in the video? If you do, leave a comment down below. Me personally, I actually have all three right now and I'm playing around with all of them, but I still believe strongly that the iMac is still the #1 selling desktop for Apple. Although professionals do buy the Mac Pro every now and then, but they don't nearly buy it as often as they do the iMac, because you just get so much value for it. So if you've liked the video, give me a like, and if you want to subscribe, I'd say go for it. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one.